Then on Sports Central, we go for our next team prediction of this offseason, and it's going to be over the Baylor Bears, the team that went 6-7 overall in the 2022 season. Not a bad season for Baylor, even though this team did fall off a bit in comparison to where they were in 2021. But how this team be in 2023 and why I think this team could definitely return to contention in the 2023 season is we'll be talking about here today. We'll be analyzing this team and predict their schedule game by game in this video. Let's get started with a quick recap of 2022. Once again, the record was 6-7. It wasn't a bad season for Baylor. I mean, 6-7, getting to a bowl game, not a bad season, but of course it was a bit of a disappointment in comparison to what we saw in 2021. There's no hiding that's for sure. But started the season on a high note, beat UAlbany 69-10, lost to BYU the next week on the road 26-20 in double overtime. And at the time there, that BYU-Baylor matchup was between two teams that had high expectations, and so loss there for Baylor was definitely disappointing, but still not a bad loss. It was just a close one, and definitely disappointing to win into double overtime. You beat Texas State the next week in dominant fashion, beat Iowa State on the road, did lose to Oklahoma State 36-25. Of course, you also lost to West Virginia on the road 43-40, so a couple of tough losses there. And then you beat Kansas 35-23, beat Texas Tech on the road 45-17. So you can kind of see that inconsistency that we saw with Baylor last season. Of course, the loss to West Virginia, a team that you should not lose to. And then, of course, beating Texas Tech, especially a really solid team last season, and even Oklahoma on the road 38-35. So there were some promising performances out of this team, even though they did take several disappointing losses. Of course, they lost to K-State 31-3, got dominated in that one. Lost to TCU by 1, kept that game close, almost won it, but TCU stole the win in the end. And then you lost to Texas on the road to finish out the regular season 38-27, took on Air Force in the Armed Forces Bowl, lost that game 30-15. So definitely a bumpy finish to the season, losing your last 4 games. And once again, it's the inconsistency of this team, but we saw promise with this team. You look at the games between the Kansas and Oklahoma, that period of those 3 games, all 3 of those wins were really impressive for this team. I mean, you went on the road to Texas Tech, an 8-win team last season, and beat them 45-17, and then beat Oklahoma on the road. Not an easy place to play there in Norman, and beat them 38-35. So, I mean, even Kansas was a good team last season. You beat them by 12. So, I mean, Baylor, we saw the potential last season with this team, just a few disappointing losses. And so there is promise and there is potential as we look forward to 2023. And let's look at the roster preview now. So Blake Shapen is coming back, starting quarterback for this team. Same with Richard Reese, the top in the backfield. So Blake Shapen last season, not a bad season. And of course, he's still gaining experience. And so I think we'll see him be better in 2023. But I mean, still not a bad year. 2,800 yards, 18 touchdowns, over 10 interceptions, a 63% completion rate. There is a lot of potential here, I think, with Blake Shapen. And of course, the backfield looks pretty good. Richard Reese, over 1,000 yards last season, 14 touchdowns. You lose Craig Williams, but at least you got Quaylon Jones coming back. So backfield looks great. Receiving core overall looks great. Monterey Baldwin coming back. Same with Josh Cameron and Hal Presley. So you got 3 of your top 4 receivers coming back. And of course, you do lose Gavin Holmes, your second wideout, but there is still plenty of depth as far as skill players are concerned. You lose 1 on the offensive line, 1 defensive lineman, 1 linebacker, and then 4 in the secondary. So defensively, the D-line should definitely be better. I think the linebacking situation looks pretty great. But the secondary, you do lose a few key players in the secondary. That's my main concern defensively for this team. But I do think, I mean, there's still plenty of depth on both sides of the ball. There's a lot of potential here. I mean, this was a younger team last season. There's no doubt. I mean, you look at this team in 2021, a very experienced team that was a national contender. I mean, turns out Baylor in 2021 was, they're known to be the best team to not have made the college football playoff in 2021. And so, I mean, they were very much a contender. And so this team has got the potential. I mean, we have seen Dave Aranda really, he's had some strong teams with Baylor while he's been the coach. And so I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do with this team. And this team is definitely one that I think shows tremendous potential as we look forward to 2023. Can this team be a contender again? Very much. I definitely think this team has got the talent to definitely do that. But your transfer portal and recruiting now. So Sawyer Robertson, he's coming in from Mississippi State, adding some depth to the quarterback situation. Same with RJ Martinez. But I think it's pretty common knowledge that this is Blake Shapen's job, so no one's really going to take over him. But Kyron Drones, he is headed to Virginia Tech, so your backup quarterback from last season is leaving. But this is a key player coming in here. Dominic Richardson from Oklahoma State. He was the Cowboys' top running back this past season, and he's going to be on Baylor this year. So that is a huge addition in the backfield there. This could be one of the best backfields in the country, honestly, the way the depth is looking. I mean, you already got Richard Reese coming back, who rushed for over 1,000 yards. Jones coming back. I mean, this is a team with tremendous potential in the backfield, and Dom Richardson is obviously a huge addition there. Craig Williams off to Louisiana Tech. You bring in Katron Jackson from Arkansas. You do lose Jalen Ellis and Josh Fleeks to Colorado and Nebraska, respectively, but obviously both of them really didn't have significant impacts. Clark Barrington's coming in from BYU. Campbell Barrington coming in from BYU as well. So you got two Barrington offensive linemen coming in from BYU, and both of them are actually projected to be starters, and so that's going to be great having two immediate starters coming in from the transfer portal. Maz Kua, offensive lineman, is off to Florida. Mike Smith, linebacker, is coming in from Liberty. You lose Al Walcott off to Arkansas. LaRondo Johnson is off to Arkansas as well. Devin Neal to Arkansas. So three players from your secondary, really interesting, all heading to Arkansas. So once again, I mentioned this already, the defensive secondary is definitely my biggest concern on this defense. It's definitely got the least amount of depth, and that could be a way where this defense is definitely vulnerable. The Big 12, obviously a strong offensive conference. Your defense is going to need to be strong in that area. But of course, you do bring in Isaiah Dunson from Miami, so that's going to be good. He is projected to be a starter as well, so at least that's good news in the secondary. But recruiting-wise, 34th nationally. You're 6th in the Big 12, so kind of middle of the pack there. You got 2 4-stars coming in, 19 3-stars. Overall, not terrible for the recruiting for Baylor, but obviously the transfer portal, you bring in a few key players, but obviously defensively you are losing a few as well. But overall, the future is definitely bright for Baylor. This is a team that in recent years, I mean, they've had some really excellent seasons. I mean, you think back to 2019, that was a great season for this team. 2021 was, and 2022 obviously was a bit of a step down, but I mean, this team definitely wasn't quite as experienced in 2022, so it makes sense for them to have fallen off a bit. But the way that this team has been, I wouldn't be surprised one bit if in 2023 Baylor is able to surprise a lot of people and be a contender once again. I think the future is bright. I've got this team at an 8 or 9 out of 10. I've got them at an 8 out of 10 on the graphic, but I think this team has very much got a bright future. I really like what Dave Aranda is doing, and if he can stick around and stay with Baylor, I think this team is very much one that can remain a contender for many years to come. But that said, let's take a look at the schedule now. So you got Texas State in week 1, Utah in week 2. Utah is going to be a huge matchup. Obviously, the Utes back-to-back Pac-12 champions. You got them coming to town in week 2. So that's going to be a game where we're really going to be able to find out where Baylor stands at the beginning of this season. And that can give us a good expectation of what to look forward to with them. But then you got Long Island on the 16th. So you got 2 pretty easy games out of your first 3. It's just that Utah matchup that's going to be a challenge, and then Texas at home after that. So that's definitely positive. All 4 of your first games are at home. Your first road game is to Orlando to take on UCF, one of the Big 12 newcomers. You're going on the road there, and then Texas Tech at home on the 7th. Cincinnati on the road after your bye week. Iowa State at home, Houston at home, K-State on the road, TCU on the road, and then West Virginia at home to finish out the regular season. So you're playing 3 out of 4 of the new Big 12 teams. So you got UCF and Cincinnati along with Houston. You do not play BYU. That's the one team. Now, of course, you played them last season, so it makes sense for you not to play them this season. But looking at your first 4 games here, Texas State, easy win. You take care of them. Utah, this is as 50-50 of a matchup as you can get here. Baylor being at home, I really think the Bears are a talented team, very much able to win that matchup. I picked Utah. I do think this is one, though, that could definitely go either way. Honestly, I'm kind of almost second-guessing myself just saying that. I kind of want to take Baylor, but I do have Utah winning that matchup, but once again, it's as close as you can get. That's going to be a really fun matchup there no matter what in week 2. And then Long Island, you got them in week 3, easy win, and then Texas at home after that. I think Texas is a really solid team this season. They might be my favorite in the Big 12. I know there are many seasons where Texas has such high expectations and they disappoint. 2023, the way that team's looking, the way the Big 12 is just so wide open, I wouldn't be surprised if this was Texas' year to finally win a Big 12 title again. So you're 2-2 heading into your last game of September and October. UCF on the road. This is a challenging road game here. I do want to take UCF. Honestly, I've said this a few times. If there's going to be any team out of the 4 new Big 12 teams that is a contender in 2023, it's going to be UCF. That's a team that is built to win right now. I mean, Cincinnati I see falling off quite a bit. No Luke Fickell, and they're definitely in a rebuild phase right now. Houston, of course, I think is going to fall off with the losses that they have offensively. BYU could be decent. I do think BYU maybe is a 6-8 win team. But once again, if any team's going to be a contender, it's going to be UCF. So that's a tough one there on the road. I'm going to take the Knights. And then you got Texas Tech at home, a close game here, but a nice win over a solid Red Raiders team. And then Cincinnati on the road. I think you beat Cincinnati. This is going to be a close road matchup, but you go there and you get a nice win. And you're building some momentum heading into the Iowa State game, and you beat the Cyclones pretty easily. So you're 5-3 heading into November in a pretty good position. You beat Houston easily. Once again, I think Houston falls off a decent amount. So you've got some really good momentum heading into a huge Kansas State matchup, which I think you're going to have 3 big teams in the Big 12 that are going to be at the top. And those teams are going to be, I'd say, Texas, K-State, and Oklahoma. I do think those are your 3 top teams, and K-State's going to be really good once again. It's a road game. This is going to be a close one here, but I'm going to take K-State in a close one. And TCU on the road, this is also a game where I kind of want to take Baylor, but coming off of a tough loss at Kansas State, I do want to take TCU here to win this matchup in a close one, but I do think TCU falls off a bit in 2023. I don't see them being a big national contender like they were in 2022. And then West Virginia, close one here, but you beat them, so you're 7-5 on the season. Honestly, though, this is a team that is talented enough to definitely be better than 7-5. I mean, on the range, I've got 10-2 for the ceiling, but even 11-1 honestly could be the ceiling. I think the ceiling is really high for this team, but I do think this team takes a few close losses. I mean, I'm still a little bit uncertain on the quarterback situation. I do think Blake Shapen is a quarterback who has got tremendous potential, but we'll see if he can follow through on that and have a great season. Obviously, turnovers can be an issue. And so for Baylor, I think this is a team that definitely has got the potential to be great. I do think they're a good team. Definitely, I think they'll improve on 2022. 7-5 is what I've got for the predicted record. But this is a team talent-wise that could definitely be a 9 or 10 win team. I've got the floor at 5-7 in case this team really disappoints, but I'd honestly be stunned if they went 5-7. I think 10-2 is the ceiling, 5-7 is the floor. I think either way, this is going to be a good season coming up here for Baylor. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below on the Bears, and I appreciate you guys all watching as always. Stay tuned for more from All Sports Central. Catch you on the next one.